Hey, I'm Guy.
I'm John.
It's our YouTube channel. Subscribe and give this video a like.
Check out our podcast below in the description.
John, now the wide receiver class of 2020, it could go down as one of the, I don't want to jump the gun here, but one of the highest floor receiver classes. Every guy, it feels like, is hitting. Ruggs. We haven't seen a lot of Jerry Jeudy. CeeDee Lamb is 5th in the NFL in receiving. Now, that's going to change probably with Dak out because Dak, I don't know if you saw it, but Dak was like on a historic passing pace. I think he had thrown for more yards through 4 games than anybody in the history of the NFL by far.
Like 6,800 yards or something.
Justin Jefferson is top 15 in receiving. He's off to a great start. Ayuk has clearly flashed. Laviska Shenault's leading the Jags in receiving. Now, they've had some injuries. Or you told me, DJ Chark got hurt. Chase Claypool just scored 4 touchdowns for the Steelers.
Higgins had 2 touchdowns last week against the Eagles, or 2 weeks ago. Like, Higgins made some plays.
So, I mean, Bryan Edwards, they got hurt, but he looked good. We could go on. I'm skipping over a few guys.
You mentioned Ayuk. Made a couple plays.
I mentioned Ayuk. T. Higgins. I'll be honest, I've not seen a lot of T. Higgins. You can tell me if he's been balling.
I watched the Eagles-Bengal game. He had 2 touchdowns in that game.
All right, well, good start. Like, because we've seen a lot of receivers where you go, it's been 7 weeks. Where the hell is this guy?
Well, I think it's so spread out right now. If I said you have to take one, who would you pick right now, October 13th? It would be a hard decision.
Who's the decision between? Let's talk about it that way.
I'd say probably between CeeDee Lamb and Henry Ruggs.
Yeah, I think maybe Vikings fans would say Justin Jefferson deserves to be, but I'm with you. I think it's between those 2 guys.
If I wanted to take like the cop-out answer, I'd go, well, who's on my team, right? If I have like DeAndre Hopkins, I'd want Ruggs to balance them out. If I have Stephon, if I'm like the Bills and I got Diggs, I'd want Lamb, right? I'd want a more physical jump ball guy.
Yeah,
or Justin Jefferson.
And if you told me that Chase Claypool has more touchdowns than any of them in 2021, I'd believe you on that.
Did you know much about Chase Claypool?
Just that he was this like freak show who could be a tight. Like, remember it was like, is this guy going to be a tight end at Notre Dame? What is he?
Well, he was smoking he smokes Darius Slay on one. Like, geez Louise, the Steelers. Are they the greatest drafting wide receiver team of all time?
You saw that stat that like they haven't drafted a receiver number in the first round, and yet they've got.
Why would they?
Juju and AB and. Yeah,
Claypool, Martavius Bryant, and it's just they got the market corner. That Deontay
Santonio.
Was he a first rounder?
Well, was he there? Did they draft him?
I thought he came from the Jets.
Yeah.
Or maybe not. That's a good question.
No, they drafted him. He was a first rounder.
Okay, so that would be their last guy. And then he eventually went to the Jets. They probably realized, like, well, we don't need to do this anymore.
Anyway, Henry Ruggs is. However you want to organize it, he's tier 1 among NFL rookie receivers, right? When he's healthy, his numbers would be up there. If he plays the rest of the season, his numbers will be up there.
Well, here's what I noticed watching Jeudy, and again, it's a little hard to judge, right? His quarterback situation's been a problem. He's a Marvin Harrison type with questionable hands. Like, I feel pretty confident because a huge argument was Jeudy, Ruggs, CD, who goes first? And we have a small body of work here, but I would rather have Ruggs than Jeudy. And that was a legit discussion. I mean, Raider fans thought they might take Jeudy. I think it's pretty clear, like, Ruggs has a chance to be really special. Now, I think in fairness, CeeDee Lamb feels like a guy who's just going to be a star. Like, honestly, he kind of looks like Des Bryant in the number, but he's faster. Like, he's just a stud. And like you said, the numbers are stupid. Actually, I don't know if the numbers are they going to dip that much with Andy Dalton? I guess time will tell.
Well, it's tough. I mean, I think is he 5th and Amari 6th in the NFL in receiving? It's
so you'd say it'd be hard to maintain their level of passing it. And you would say, like, can Ruggs? One thing you would imagine, and we'll see, like, as they play they're going to play 2 better defenses in the Browns or the Bucs and the Browns, right? In the next 2 games. They're not like I think they're going to build a shell around Ruggs. To me, they're not like the game plan's going to be we're not letting this guy beat us deep. Now, and that's where Derek can really take over. But this guy, people remember Deshaun's rookie year? It was like, no one really stopped him when he stayed healthy for the first 4 or 5 years. When you're that talented, that fast, and you have that many, his ball skills are fantastic. Like I remember being at an Eagles practice one time. and being like, we used to track every single catch in practice to like put up who has the best hands and stuff. We had Jason Avant, who was like just incredible hands, catch balls with one hand. So I'd be like, who has the best hands on the team? To Mike Frazier, who's still with Andy, who's like his number guy. And he's like, it's Deshaun. I mean, he never drops the ball. And it's like, I don't think when you think Deshaun Jackson, you just think like, oh, speed. Well, why Deshaun was so special, and even as his career is coming to an end, had a 12-year career as a speed guy, because he was way more than a speed guy. He was an elite wide receiver. And I think watching Ruggs, like that catch he made down the sideline, like I think Ruggs, he just gets talked about. Oh, he's the fastest guy in the draft, right? He's just every year there's that guy, as we talked about on Sunday. It's like, the Hayward base. He's not that guy. Like Deshaun, like he's a wide receiver. He just happens to run the 4.2, right?
He's not a one-trick pony. He's not a. To me, it's the different. Are you a complimentary receiver, speed receiver, or are you just maybe a number one receiver? And he just might be a number one receiver.
I think he just, again, I mean, we're overreacting a little bit. He's played 2.5 games, but I think there's a chance he's number one wide receiver. I would lean if you had to go, John, assuming he stays healthy, number one wide receiver or role player. When I say role player, like 2, 3, right?
Right.
I go 1.
Yeah, he might be.
go one of the best players in the league.
Yeah. Not to try to like keep topping what we think of him, but I think it's like,
how bad do you want to blow?
I think he's a 1.5 at worst.
He's sweet.
He doesn't look like a 2 to me. Now maybe he could. Doesn't mean he couldn't be on a team where there's another receiver that's better than him, right? But I think what we're talking about is kind of what's going on in Dallas.
Is Tyreek Hill a 1? Technically, he's a 2 on that team because Kelsey's their 1.
Yeah, I mean his but to me, it's like he's a 1 when you have somebody else who's really good. Is he like AB level 1? Now that's unfair because Juju was there. But can he be your number? Can you have Tyreek Hill and then like 2 3s? Can you do that, or would you have to have like a clear number 2?
Don't they kind of do with Sammy and Hardeman?
But it's Andy and Kelsey and Patrick, so it feels unfair. But yeah, I mean his production is. The level to which you have to prepare for him is number one level receiver, right?
Yes.
The level to which you lose sleep rating. So yeah, I mean, I think
you build a game plan around him as a defensive coordinator.
Clearly, you have to be. He can break games open, but like to me, what I'm looking forward to seeing is just his game where his deepest catch is 21 yards and he's got 9 catches. Like that's coming, right?
Yeah.
He's reliable.
He's better. He's better than I thought just watching him. And I had a good buddy that did the SEC, and I remember asking him to describe him. And I used Deshaun. He's like, it's got a little lazy. And not that like, and again, I think when you talk about Deshaun like 18, 19, and 20, it's a little different than when we did 7, 8 years ago. But like, I think it's fair in the sense of you just immediately watch him and go, this guy's special. And then like how you describe him, what corner you pigeonhole him in. Is he a 1? Is he a 2? Can he carry? He's just like, I want that guy on my team, right? Now, ultimately, when he wants a new contract, does he bring a phone to the meeting room and get suspended and all that shit? We'll see. But clearly he's a pop. He popped their first game, right? Just running. You're like, whoa.
Well, remember this.
The Saints game when Derek missed him and he's flying by the guy.
And remember how much he affected that game, even though his numbers. Remember, he had 2 pass interference calls. He just opened up the field, and it was clear when he was gone, the Patriots were able to just focus in on Darren Waller. If you told me he's the best receiver on this team for the next 3 years, I'm not saying he's the best receiver on this team. You go, okay, you can win with that. Him plus Darren Waller, Josh Jacobs, you can win if Henry Ruggs is your best receiver.
I completely agree.
And then, what we saw from Bryan Edwards, that's a good complimentary receiver.
Well, do you know what he reminds me of a guy that's going to do? When Herbert, it looked like threw the game-winning touchdown to Mike Williams, and the corner just stopped. And it's always that weird look when he's walking over the sideline. He knows he fucked up, but he's like trying to blame someone, but he doesn't really have anyone to blame. Watching the Monday night game, playing corner kind of sucks. Like, I don't know why anyone would aspire to do that. Like, you get beat more than you make plays. It's really hard. There are all these moving parts that you have to know as you're running full speed with guys that can haul ass. It's way more difficult than wide receiver, because a wide receiver, you're just told what to do, and you just hope the guy throws you the ball. Like at corner, you're like reacting. You don't know what's coming.
Well, it chooses you. You play 2 ways in high school, and then they tell you can't catch, I think.
That's true, too. I think he's going to have over his career, especially early on in his career, if people are just like feeling him out and people a lot of these teams play him for the first time, those reactions of like throwing up their hands, of like pointing, like where's my safety, or like looking at the coach being like, what do I do? I feel he has a lot of those in the bag, or just guys just hauling ass chasing and 3 yards behind them.
I think there's that. Plus there is did a 5'11" guy just beat you on that jump ball? Which there's no shame in it because this guy, he plays bigger than 5'11". I think
because he can do
already.
like 360 dunks in traffic.
Yes.
We saw in high school.
Yeah. So I think we've already seen you can like what we saw Herbert do on 4th down, where he just basically one-on-one coverage. I've got to get it over the corner in front of the safety and trust Mike Williams to go up and make the play. Well, it's easy because not easy, but I mean, that's the guy you normally do trust, right? Because he's massive. Well, we saw it in the big play to Henry Ruggs in the Chiefs game. Like, Derek trusts him for good reason to go up on a 50-50 ball and make a play. Like, he is a 50-50 receiver. He's not just a 5 yards ahead of the guy down the field receiver. He's a 50-50 ball guy.
Well, and we talked about this on Sunday. To me, the key to have that guy is then to have the balance, right? They have a guy to work the middle in Renfro, and they have a tight end. Like, part of what made Deshaun really good is we had Selleck, we had Shady, and we had Macklin. It like all kind of balance each other out. Like if you just have that guy and nothing else, you can just, unless you're Robert Saleh, double team the guy, right? Or put a guy over him. When you have like, well, we can't move the safety here because then Waller's here, and then they do have like their pieces on offense really fit.
They do.
Like if you're just putting the pieces of the puzzle.
And you agree, Brian Edwards, like what we saw of him, looked like he would fit too.
Do you know who would really fit on their team?
Michael Crabtree.
Terrell Williams, the guy they signed and just kept getting hurt. Like, imagine him with all these guys. Would they have like a top 5 offense in the league? Because remember, he was a really good complementary piece.
If he was healthy and Brian Edwards was healthy.
Well, I just think Edwards wouldn't play that much.
I know, but it'd be too bad because I think from what we saw of him, he clearly belongs on the field.
Yeah, he looks the part. You know who else looks the part is DK Metcalf. Oh my God.
Yeah, breaking news. I mean, if they redrafted, he'd be a top 5 pick.
5 pick.
I was going to say I hesitated. I
once texted a buddy with the Chiefs after he ran the 4-1. Was he 4-1-8 or 4-2-1 or whatever? And I said top 10 pick. And he's like, "Oh, the tape's not that great, but that was pretty crazy." Like I honestly texted that just after the 40. Now I had never watched him play. I had to YouTube his highlights. And remember, it was kind of everyone's like, "Oh, we're making too big a thing," and then he fell to the second round. Like, that's the thing about Ruggs and really this class. That class was like A.J. Brown, those guys. They're all going like the second round, even Debo, right? They were just – that did not happen with this class.
If he had played for Lane Kiffin, he would have been drafted a lot higher.
Did you notice what Lane's mask said?
Well, it was like I saw the Manning brothers. It said Mannings and it had –
No, it said Metcalf 14.
Oh, okay. Earlier he'd been wearing one that said Manning and it had like 10/18. Okay. I did not see that one.
So he wears a different mask with a different guy's number. So he must have wore Eli's mask the week before, wore Metcalf's mask this game. That's kind of genius.
That is good.
Lane, a little smarter than you think. Fresno State. I don't know if he graduated. He had to have graduated, right, to get a college job. Or they just gave him a certificate or something.
Is there a dog in the house?